Welcome to another edition of Data Protection Gumbo podcast. We're here with another amazing guest today. His name is Omar Masri, and he's a software engineer and also the founder and CEO of Mamori, which helps businesses overcome the cost and complexities of cybersecurity, preventing attacks while meeting compliance and cyber insurance requirements. He is also a director of a data migration and security services company and is co-incubating a non-emergent transport services startup as well. So Omar, welcome to Data Protection Gumbo. How are you?
Good. Thank you very much for having me. Thanks, Demetrius.
All
I'm
right,
doing well.
let's start off with why Mamori and why did you decide to start it, and just any information you'd like to share about the company that you're building.
Sure. So Mamori was an idea born probably about a year or two before COVID happened, and it was really around. I used to do a lot of venture capital work, and we worked with a lot of startups. And obviously, when you have a startup, you don't have a lot of cash in terms to spend on security. But these small businesses had, in their desire to grow, they wanted to do businesses with larger companies that required security. So it's very expensive for a small or medium-sized business to actually get secure, right? So it's kind of an idea of, hey, how do we simplify security? Right now, it's kind of sold and bought in little pieces, and you have to, you know, security experts have to put it together themselves, essentially, at every
Right.
business, right? And that's where the idea was born. Because at the high level, security is actually pretty simple. All the compliance people say, hey, just do these 8 things, do these 10 things from a security expert perspective, right? But in
Mm-hmm.
practice, it's cost prohibitive. Actually, it's impossible to actually implement those 8 to 10 things, right? And that's where Mamori, that's kind of our mission, is to actually make it possible to actually implement the recommendations, right? And that's where we are
Okay.
now. So we developed things out and took the product to market about a year and a half ago, and it's been well received. So it's growing, so it's good.
Yeah, it seems like everyone is focusing and really getting laser focused and honed in on security and dealing with cyber risks and cybersecurity overall. I really want to get your perspective and opinion on cybersecurity and how the evolution has evolved. Let's say since COVID-19, because COVID pushed everyone internal inside and everyone onto a network, right? So lots of companies had to spin up VPNs, and everyone had to log in and do Zoom meetings, etc. But I think it also did something to the way IT is protected or managed from that perspective. What's your take on that,
So you're
Omar?
100% correct on those technical challenges of just working from home. Everyone worked from home. Even the hackers went home and started working overtime, right? But actually, the
Mm-hmm.
biggest change is actually how risk was assessed in cybersecurity. So before COVID, a lot of businesses just bought cyber insurance instead of actually implementing security. Because you got hacked, you sort of just paid the site, your insurance covered it, right? It was actually cheaper, right?
Yeah.
But since COVID, the insurance industry has lost billions, and they're like, no, no more. So it's almost like I was talking to an insurance guy, and he was like, look, honestly, before we were insuring drunk drivers and just paid them when they crashed, right? And we were happy to
Mm-hmm.
do it because they didn't crash that bad, right? Now it's like forget it. Now, actually, to get insurance, and actually, you have to meet the requirements by the providers. So that's kind of the first thing. So how risk is assessed changed. Uh, so people actually have to actually be secure now, and that's where everything changes. Now, when you actually have to be secure, then the issues that you brought up before, everyone's now working remote. Hacks are happening more often. Uh, so your teams are more distributed. So essentially, it's almost like uh, the infrastructure has become more complicated. Access requirements have become more complicated, and there's more hackers hacking. Hacking has become, essentially like hacking as a service type business.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
you can sell data. For example, I could go and steal some company data from my company. There's a market for me to sell the data and get some Bitcoin, right?
Right.
So it's like you have increased demand for theft, and you have increased invulnerability, and what hasn't changed is the software of how to get secure hasn't changed. So it's still sort of the 1990s kind of design sort of stuff. So
Hmm.
it's kind of like a perfect storm, right? That's kind of
Yeah.
happening.
So you saying software hasn't changed that much since the 90s, which is that part of the reason why hackers are really succeeding, especially with things like ransomware, and they seem to be very successful nowadays with getting inside of corporate networks, sitting there for 30, 60, 90, 120 days, and I mean exfiltrating data. I mean, it's a lot that's happening right now, and you would think that they would maybe start to decline, that more of the good guys would start building some solutions that no one is really capable of overriding or getting access to. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is why is it still on the rise? Do you have an idea as to? And I know you mentioned the software part, but what are some of the challenges as to
Yeah.
why
So the
it's on
key
the rise?
challenges are pretty simple. Right now, it's no one can actually follow the recommendations. That's kind of like super high level thing. Is no one can actually follow the simple recommendations. And here's an example, right? Um,
Hmm.
the FTC and and a lot of NSA, they'll say, okay, 2FA everything, right? That's a simple recommendation. But in
Right.
practice, businesses can't 2FA everything right now. They can only 2FA, for example, they buy Okta or Duo. That's 2FA their apps, and maybe they'll 2FA their SSH and maybe their RDP access, right? But how about their database access? How about the legacy applications that don't support SAML? How about the OT infrastructure? How about just you have all these things that are sitting there, the file share, the network drive, right? Access to
Hmm.
the so you have all these things. So you have gaps. It's almost like people are buying a gate but forget the fence, or they have a fence but they forget the gate. You actually have to follow the recommendation of 2FA everything, and that's what Mamori helps you do. We help you 2FA everything, right? If you have your Okta, you can still use that for your things that you have, and then for the things that Okta doesn't cover, for example, we do that as well. So, and if you don't have anything, we do it all, right? So that's kind of the first challenge. Is it's been impossible and sometimes cost prohibitive to actually implement the best practice, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. And the human factor of us as humans trying to follow the best practices and recommendations and do things like 2FA, where do you see AI coming into the picture, and who's going to win that race? Is it the bad guys or the good guys, or maybe both will leverage, just from a security perspective, to kind of do some of the good things to keep the bad guys out, and the bad guys will probably use AI to do some of the bad things to get in to a network. I don't know who's going to win that race, but I'm curious to hear your perspective
Yeah.
on how does that play out.
So the winner of that game, it's all about. It's like in wars, visibility is key, right? Who can see, and who can't see, right?
Hmm.
So when both sides are using AI, then the winner is the one who's able to keep the other side blind, right? So I think AI will play a big role. Now the challenge for using or making use of AI is the data set, the visibility. So, for example, if you're only if you're only collecting and analyzing your application access, but you're not doing your network and your database and your file shares and your cloud drive access, if you don't have visibility over the full picture on your traffic of access, then your AI is kind of limited in the threats that it can detect and protect you from, right?
Hmm.
If you're so that's why I think AI will play a big role, in our focus in that is to actually give uh, the data set. So if you, for example, if you used Mamori, then in its entirety, you would have your your DevOps access, RDP, SSH, Windows. You have your application access, you have your network access, any TCP access. It's all kind of recorded, logged, and built into sort of like an analytical sort of machine learning set. which an AI can act on and find the patterns and stuff. So yeah, so
Hmm.
I think AI is always needed. It always contributes. It helps find the anomalies and helps keep the instead of getting thousands and thousands of alerts, you get a nice human readable risk score, right? That you can say, okay, here's something I should look at, right? Um,
Yeah. Okay. And what are you seeing? Is there a trend is around what hackers and what bad guys are actually getting in and kind of taking
yes,
over? Is there one thing you're seeing over the other that, maybe it's something simple or maybe it's something complex, but I'm thinking it's simple.
yeah. So the trend right now is going for companies that have sort of richer data sets, right? So for example, there's more attacks happening in around the healthcare industry, right? Because they have patient information.
Yeah.
There's more,
Right.
right? So and typically medical industry hasn't really been a big buyer of compared to banks and telcos, which buy every and electricity companies, they buy kind of every security product in the market, right? Hospital
Hmm.
groups traditionally aren't big uh, IT buyers, and they have a lot of partners they integrate with, right? So they integrate with their transporters, they integrate with their dispatchers, and people who supply their medicine. So all these people have all this, they share all this data. So there's a lot of
Right.
little moving parts, and hackers are like, ooh, a lot of little moving parts. Companies don't all have the same granularity of security. Easy target, right? So they're kind of seen as a soft target. Another target is
Mm.
consulting companies. Consulting companies always feel like, hey, I'm a consulting company. I don't have to buy security. My clients are secure. But then
Hmm.
they clients give the consultants VPN access, so then all that jazz. So then hackers now are attacking consultants because they have all the connections to all their customers. Right? So that's kind of the changes happening. So hackers are getting a bit smart, going for the data, and also insider threat. Right? People are just stealing it and selling the data when they're about to
Wow.
switching jobs. Right? I'm leaving my job tomorrow. Hey, what can I steal and sell it? Get for some extra Bitcoin. Right? So
Yeah, it's fascinating. I never thought about the consultant angle that consultants do have access to lots of clients and they have access to, multiple different businesses. And so if you get
mm,
access to the consultants data, then you probably can get access to, some of their third party vendors as well. So that's
that's right.
that's pretty fascinating, pretty unique. Do you have any like war stories around things being broken into? You
Oh,
don't
yeah,
have to
oh,
share
there's
names.
heaps. Yeah, there's heaps. There's many times we're helping out the little nonprofit, starting with a small business, little nonprofit organization, just helping them out with
Mhm.
some stuff, and we're sitting there watching it and looking at the database, and I tell them, I think someone's attacking your system right now because they're encrypting
Yeah.
your files. I'm like, unplug your machine. Go right now and tell the guy
Wow.
to just unplug your machine from the. Yeah, this is it was about maybe 10 years ago, but yeah, there's just a lot of cases like that. You see hacks happening in action. People are snooping around, or when we usually try to track. People scanning, doing scans. So when you detect
Mhm.
people doing a lot of scans, you kind of know that's what's happening. But yes, that's kind of been the worst. Where I actually saw a ransomware hacker actually trying to start to encrypt data, and actually that's a misconception.
Wow.
So that most people, when people buy security, they usually, the hard thing is you get marketed so hard from every vendor that sells little features, right?
Mhm.
Uh, hey, buy my little feature and protect your application, and you'll be protected from ransomware. Big misconception. Protecting your
Yeah.
hackers don't attack apps. Ransomware hackers, they attack your databases. They attack the servers that actually have your files, right? To
Yep.
ransomware. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. And I'm curious to know like what your approach is with Mamori and how you guys approach it. I know so this is a cloud-based SaaS solution, right?
No, no. So this is not a. So a lot of the people actually have air gapped environments, right?
Okay. Mhm.
Meaning, yeah. So this is not a. So we sell, it's seat based, it's annual subscription, but we're not a cloud
Okay.
solution that.
Okay.
So all your traffic stays in wherever your network is. So if you have a cloud, if you are cloud deployed, then your Mamori server is inside your virtual private cloud, right? So the
Got it.
idea is that it's deployed inside your network. You can put one in the DMZ if you want. Um, and yeah, it just sort of, and then you use the modules that you want. And we have every module that you would need, right? You have your ZTNA module, your PAM module, your DB PAM module, your database activity module. So it's about, 8, 10 modules, your workflow module,
Hmm.
which is the one that actually people buy last. And it's the one that the reason why many companies fail are ISO, 27001 compliance, which
Right.
is the access management. Because sale points bloody expensive. Simple as that, right? So no one
Yeah.
ever sale points expensive. So yeah, so we have all the modules. You use kind of what you want, enable the things you want, and it's pretty easy to install. It's just a simple Docker install. Yeah.
Okay. You said Docker install.
So yeah, so we deploy
Okay.
using Docker. So we don't have to have a swarm or anything. It's just you stand up a Linux or a Windows Hyper-V, and then you just run the command, and it's installed literally in 5 minutes. So yeah, it's
Wow.
available on Docker Hub. You just can do the pull, and it starts up, and
Hmm.
you can start using it.
Okay. Sounds pretty fascinating. And as far as the future and looking in your crystal ball, where do you see things headed?
So I think I don't know if you remember back in the day, it used to be corporate BI, right? And
Hmm.
then sort of the Tableau and the clicks came out, and there was a new market segment for self-service BI, right? So I think what's going to happen is the big trend in cybersecurity isn't going to be a single feature. It's not a better AI or better 2FA or better PAM or better DAM. It's more about, hey, um, all in one. I don't, I'm tired of buying 10 different vendors and taking 2 years to integrate it. I want a
Yeah.
single solution that deploys in, a week or even a day, and I can just start using it. Right. That's kind of the big
Hmm.
trend, and it's got everything baked in there. So I think the all-in-one self-service thing is going to be happen. So because traditionally, my history is we build productivity tools. So I don't know if you heard in the US, you would have heard Request Software.
I
Um,
have. Hmm.
yeah, so the products like Toad and Spotlights and all those database tools, right? So
Okay.
we developed them out of the Melbourne lab, right? So it was when I moved to Australia, we we
Hmm.
we made a little Oracle product, and we got bought by Quest before they went IPO. This is like 1999, right? Going back in the day.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So, well, really, what we focused on is allowing people who aren't experts to do things that experts can do, and cybersecurity needs that. Right now, it's
Yeah.
just too hard to implement for any business to implement security because there aren't enough experts to do it properly. So Mamori is kind of designed to be very similar in that sort of philosophy of a productivity tool. You don't have to be a cybersecurity expert to just stand up a Mamori server and start using it. In fact, you don't even have to know all the compliance things and craziness. Just use it, right? It just makes it
Yeah.
so. Actually, if you just want to be more productive, you could just use it, right? Because yeah. If you're a DevOps
Hmm.
team, for example, just use it. And for the small folks, and in that spirit of the Quest tools, for small teams, it's literally free. We don't charge for small organizations, so you can just
And
download
what's
them.
small? How many
Yeah, like 20,
people?
30 people. That's usually like
Okay.
20, 30 people to small, medium business, right? Yeah.
Okay. Nice. That's good to hear because they need security like really really bad. So
Well, that's right. The people. I mean, when you look at the stats in the U.S., there's 40 million small medium businesses in the U.S. Right, or some large number. Right? I can't remember the exact
hmm.
one. And that's right. They're all getting hacked, and they're getting ransomware for 5, 10, 20 grand. Right, and for them, it's a big deal. Right, it's a big deal.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, I appreciate all the information that you've provided, and let's begin to wrap up here. And a question that I typically ask most of the guests on the show is, what's on your nightstand? What do you read before you go to bed, or what are you reading? Your book right now.
so the so I'm rereading. So my son's in high school now, and he's
Okay.
learning the Age of Enlightenment. So I'm reliving my early days of philosophy. So I love philosophy and stuff. So Camus, Candide, Voltaire,
Mm.
so Rousseau, and But apart from philosophy books and technical stuff, what I really like to read is I'm a manga geek, so uh,
Okay.
any yeah. So,
All right. Nice.
how about
Well,
yourself?
it's
What have you been reading?
me. I'm more of a self help. I can't get enough of
Ah, okay.
continually striving to think that there's something that I don't know about myself or about my environment that can help me, live better, to be faster, to be smarter, to be, more holistic, to be a better father, just to be better, overall. So I have a ton of books that I am always reading at the same time, which may not be that effective, but
Yeah,
I love to keep books around because depending on how I feel, I can just grab that book and get some insight from it. So ferocious reader.
that's good. No, it's good. I think the uh, do you have any particular one in mind that you read last? Your
There is a Stoic book, so it
ah,
has different clips in it from
okay,
Marcus Aurelius and
yeah,
Epictetus and some of the other Roman emperors, etc. And it's like a daily read, which gives you every day. There's a piece of advice. So I try to do that early in the morning as the first thing, and then I'm also reading some podcasting books, how to make profit off of your podcast, and kind of learning how to do things a lot better. So those are the ones that are currently on my desk now.
yeah.
So
So it's funny you mentioned the Stoics. So about 80% of the folks who are into or self reflect, not into, but
mm,
basically self reflect, end up being Stoics. That's yeah, Marcus Aurelius, all that stuff. So actually, my
oh
son's
yeah,
very similar. He picked it up on his own, but it's
yeah.
funny. Funny that's the first thing you mentioned because I was going to ask. That's right.
Yeah, I
Yes.
stumbled upon it and it just stuck out at me. And I think his name Brian with London Real. He has a
Yeah.
YouTube channel and really big guy on online. And he was posting clips of it, and I decided to buy it as well. So it's been helping me also.
Okay. Good.
But yeah, I really appreciate you being on. And as I mentioned, I've learned a lot of insights and also some best practices around keeping data safe and secure, and learn a few things about Mamori also. So how can the listeners maybe go and check out your software or anything else that you would like to kind of close out with?
Sure. It's just go to mamori.io, and then from there you can. It's got all the links and videos and data sheets, and you can also download and install. So you can set up the little box in wherever your cloud machine or your on premise, and then just download it and install it, and send us an email and we'll help you configure it. Simple as that. So if you're a small business, it's free, and there's no need to run naked anymore on security if you don't have a lot of cash or experts, right? You can't use that as an excuse anymore because it's
No
free
more
now.
excuses.
That's right.
Yeah, that's Mamori dot
That's right.
io.
Mamori, which it means defense in Japanese. So it's like those little amulets.
Mamori.
Mamori. That's right. Hmm.
Well, Omar, thank you again for being a guest on Data Protection Gumbo. So, out there, make sure that you also go to LinkedIn, take a look at the backup and recovery professionals LinkedIn group that I run. There's about 25,000 plus professionals out there, so a great place to network and have conversations with your peers about storage and backup and recovery and security as well. So, all right, folks out there, stay safe and make sure you back up often.